Hello everyone, I'm Dynasty Taylor.
And this is Charles, and welcome to Mental Health in the Hood.
And welcome to the Mental Health Show.
Thank you. That's a good
right.
job, Dynasty.
Okay, so today is season 1, episode 6, which is PTSD in your neighborhood. We have a special guest here with us today. His name is Anthony. Thank you, Anthony, for coming today. So, Dad, do you kind of want to share a little bit about Anthony?
Yes, this is a good friend of mine. We met when we both was in the system. We was on two different sides of life, but I have seen Anthony grow at the same time I was growing. We went to a lot of self-help classes to get our life together, and I think that he has a very interesting story that will help a lot of people out there, especially young people, older people, and things like that. So let's get it started.
Yes, let's get it started. So first we want to start off with shout outs and celebrations. We want to share some love. So shout out to Stefani, which was our previous guest on episode 5. She came to tell her story about PTSD and how PTSD has shaped her as a person. She gives a single mother perspective, a Black single mother perspective who currently went through grieving and losing her father and her child's father. So please make sure you check it out. We appreciate her coming into this space, sharing her story. It was very brave. And we appreciate her courage and willpower to do so. So shout out to Stefani.
Shout out, Stefani.
The other thing is we want to shout out and thank you guys. Thank you so much for following us along this journey. This is the final touch-up of season 1, the last final episode with Anthony. So this is a very exciting moment and milestone for Mental Health in the Hood. And basically, we just want to thank you guys for continuing to be with us, like following us, liking our page, subscribing, telling people about our platform. This show is made for you. So thank you, everyday people, for following up. And I think the thing we can move in today is PTSD. So we have a very generic understanding of what PTSD means, but PTSD stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. So it is a mental health condition that's triggered by a terrifying event, either experience it or witnessing it. Symptoms may include flashbacks, nightmares, anxiety, cognitive displays, different things in terms of like re-traumatization if you're triggered again. And most people who go through traumatic events may have temporarily difficulties adjusting and coping. So sometimes you can have PTSD symptoms for a week all the way up to years. There is no time limit on the symptoms that you are dealing with or experiencing.
Exactly.
So now that we know what PTSD is and what it stands for and some of the symptoms, you can now jump into the interview.
Okay. How you doing, Anthony? You ready?
Oh yeah.
I know you ready for the people today, huh?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a few questions, but we're gonna start off with question number 1, and just think about it before you answer. I know you got a great story to share, a lot of things to share. So my first question is, what is your understanding of PTSD? What is the biggest misconception you hear about PTSD?
So my understanding of it is, like she said, you know, it's emotional. You know, it's witnessing what you witness at I think it could be any time of your childhood, or even into your adolescence, or even in your adulthood.
Right.
Anything that you have witnessed, but also what you have experienced in your own life, what you have done. The misconception of it is, like, some people look at it as, you know, you're just mentally crazy, or, you know, it's not. It's just for certain people, but it can actually be for a whole lot of people. Some people can have it, don't even know they have it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so that's what I've learned about it.
Great answer, man. Great answer. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So the next question is, now that we know what PTSD is and we have your perception of it, how did PTSD impact your childhood?
Oh my goodness. I mean, you wanna go way back. I mean,
yeah, we trying to go there.
So we could take it, you know, A to Z and just start from the beginning.
Go ahead. Talk.
So if we're talking about witnessing, I mean, I could go back to 2 years old, what I witnessed as a child. You know, I can remember cops. We were living in Hollywood in this apartment building, and I can remember cops just running into the apartment, and they got my dad and my mom handcuffed, and then I'm crying and like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just remember them, the cops pulling out a big bag of balloons out of the refrigerator,
Right.
and I didn't know what it was, but it was heroin.
Right.
So this was the beginning of the life that I didn't know what was going to be ahead.
Right.
But this was the beginning of witnessing these things,
Mhm.
and then it goes on to I'm just picking up the little things, and then I end up in a foster home.
Wow.
My parents are in prison, and I'm only 2 years old, so this started out real young.
Mm.
So then when I go into 4 years old, after my parents got out, then I remember I think they had a Mervin's or some store, back in the day, in the
Yeah.
mall, and I remember my mom taking me into the store and giving me a bag, and then she bagged up the clothes, and then she gave it to me to walk out the store.
Right.
So little did I know, I was already stealing because I'm walking out with the bag.
Right.
But
Right.
I'm 4 years old, but,
Yeah.
but I don't
Right.
know that.
Right.
I don't know
Yeah.
what stealing is at that age. I
Right.
don't know that. They
Right.
never taught me the good and the bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It was like, hey, look, we're gonna do this. This is what's gonna happen, and you're gonna do it.
Mhm.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
And then when we get to the age 5, it's okay. This is when I started to experience and started seeing the violence. I
Okay.
remember my dad beating up my mom, and then he stabbed her in the leg.
Wow.
And
What?
she left me at 5 years old.
Yeah.
So this is where it really began. This is where I was really affected emotionally, because a child needs their mother in their life.
Mhm.
While she was out of my life. At the age of 5, she was gone. She was a heroin addict. She was in the streets, and I never seen her after that.
Wow.
And then at age 6, my dad, his mom, my grandma, she died. So then he became heavy into heroin, heavy. That's when the abuse kicked in, to where I was getting beat, and I wasn't getting beat like a normal child, with the belt. No, he was shedding blood. He was shedding blood on me. I just remember one time I got in trouble in school. Like, I'll never forget. As soon as I got home, he grabbed me, took me in the bathroom, punched me in the face, busted my nose. He grabbed me and slammed my head into the tub, and split my head open. And I was only 6 years old.
Wow. Yeah.
He in his 30s, and this is a grown man. He's strong, and I'm just a little kid. And he was beating me. I seen a lot of blood. Like, so this is just a little taste of the beginning,
Right.
of what I was going through.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it just continued on
Right. To your teenage years.
to the teenage years. Not even that, because by the teenage years I was gone, because you go from 6 to 10 years old, I was getting a lot of beatings. I had the broken arm. I had a busted nose. He should just beat me with his fist.
Wow.
So it became where I was in fear of him, and the post-traumatic stress disorders talks about that.
Right.
It talks about fear,
Right.
because now you start to be scared of people, and you don't want that to happen to you.
Right.
So what do you have to do whatever you have to do to not go through that situation? Because when I would get in trouble in school, I start running away from home because I was scared of him.
Yeah.
I was sleeping in laundromats, I was sleeping in parks, I was sleeping, outside of people's houses, and like you said, it's a trigger as well, because even now I could go by certain parts that I remember in my childhood. Man, I remember I used to sleep there. Man, it triggered me. There's a lot of things that trigger me.
Right.
Even to the thing where, my mom is gone, but if I see a kid with his mom, they're having fun, I start thinking about it, like, man, I wish I had my mom. I wish I could do that. That's the trigger part. That's where the emotions kick in.
Right.
But you have to learn how to control it, because if you don't, it can get out of control.
Right.
And that's a little bit what I'm going to talk about as well. So, and from there on, when I started running away from home, okay, how am I going to eat? How am I going to take care of myself? So I started stealing, because I remember the stealing as a child.
Connected. Yeah, you connected.
I remember the stealing.
Right.
Okay, well,
So
let me
it
go.
was like learned behavior.
Yes.
Yeah,
Let me go up in the store. Let me bag this up. Well, let me go and let me put this here and put this here.
Right.
that's what I started doing. I became a thief. I was just stealing left and right, and then little crimes started to become big crimes.
Right.
I started doing bigger things. I started breaking into stores.
Yeah.
The little crimes, they start become big. You start doing bigger things than what you're
Right.
doing as a child.
So it went from misdemeanor, little
Yes,
crimes,
yeah,
small
yes.
crimes, teenage
Right.
crimes,
Yes.
and went to adult.
And I started going to juvenile hall. Like juvenile hall was my home. I probably been in every unit there. I was there like 30 times. Juvenile hall was the place for me, and it was just a place where I felt safe. I was away from my father.
How old were you when you first went in?
Ooh, 11 years old.
The juvenile?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I see kids like now, 10, 11 years old, and it takes me back. Like, man, I remember I was your age. I was over here. I was in Central Juvenile Hall. I remember I was in Children's Baptist Home in Inglewood. It was a placement. Optimus Boys Home in Highland Park, another placement. And then camp. I was in Camp Kilpatrick, Camp Miller. Kilpatrick that's another thing. I used to watch the movie Gridiron with The Rock.
Yeah.
And when I see the movie, man, it gives me flashbacks. So you start getting flashbacks of all the stuff that went on in my life, But the thing that really got me, that really started to take my life downhill, is when I joined the gang.
Right.
And why did I join the gang? I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be loved, because I wasn't getting that at home. So then I have the fellas here embracing me, and you're gonna do whatever you need to do to gain that respect, to gain that love, to gain that friendship, and to gain that that embracement from them.
I can relate. Yeah.
I know you can relate. So that's what I did. I ended up joining the gang, and things just got worse, But even joining in the gang, it was like, okay, that wasn't the way to deal with the emotions that I was going through. All it did was made it worse.
Right.
Because I'm getting older now, and as I was getting older and being in this gang, I started drinking, I started smoking weed, I started smoking PCP. I was doing everything. I did the spray paint, I did it all. I did the crack thing. I wasn't all cracked out or nothing, but I tried it.
Right.
So it was like, I was just trying to fit in and just trying to be accepted. And but that's what it all led to.
That's right.
I was just emotional damage.
Well, you gave a lot of insight into your answers, so I know a lot of people should be out there to be able to relate what he's putting out there for us to understand how things in your childhood, how it affect you, how you pick up this learned behavior, as Dynasty was talking about. So, man, very, very nice, man. I appreciate that. The world appreciate that. Right.
I think that is.
So yeah, it's on me. I just got caught up in the moment thinking about, it's kind of take me back to my life, So I got another question for you. Was there a time in your life where you wanted to make a change to get more aligned with your mental health? Like, was it a time in your life where you just wanted to do better by you when you discovered what you were going through?
Actually, okay, going back to the childhood, it led me to the camps and all that, YA, and before I got out of YA, I was real violent. I was always getting into fights and stuff. And then when I got out of YA, the streets were a little bit worse than they were before I went in. Because I did a little straight. I did like 4 years. And when I got out, okay, guns came into play. The violence was out there. It was going down in the streets. Because as soon as I got out, I was only out 8 days, and then I got shot up.
Right.
So after I got shot up, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna get shot again. So I started carrying a gun. Well, after I was only out a year and a half, and then I ended up catching life in prison.
Wow.
For 3 counts of attempted murder. So I ended up going to prison, with a life sentence. And then my first 14 years in prison, I was just lost. I was just in the dark. I didn't know where my life was going.
And how old were you when you went in?
At the time, I was 20. I was 20 years old.
20 years old.
Yes, I had got out the youth authority when I was 18, and then I went in when I was 20. And that's where my life was. It stopped in society. now I'm inside of the world now.
Right.
Prison and society is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
So now you got rules to abide by. I mean, you know how everything
Yeah, I
goes
know how
when
it
you're up
is.
in there.
Yeah.
Everything changes.
Yeah, everything
But
changes.
my first 14 years, I'm serving life in prison, but I do have the possibility of parole. So this
Right.
is where my first board hearing.
Right.
I remember I went into my first board hearing, and actually at the time I was married, my son's mom and everything, and it made it like kind of like worse for me because we were really looking forward, having a few. I'm over here thinking I'm gonna get out and stuff, but nah. When I went in, they told me talk about your family, and I was like, I never spoke about my family to nobody,
Right.
never,
Right.
and I had to speak about my family. I said if I'm gonna get out of prison, okay, I have to share with these people. But little did I know, I was emotionally damaged. Didn't even know, man. And when I started speaking, I was shaking, I was crying, like all these feelings started coming out.
Right.
That's the emotional part. And I started talking about the abuse,
Right.
the mom not being in my life, and I was just crying and crying. They had to stop the hearing and take me out.
Right.
So when they took me out, there was my lawyer. I believe she was a spiritual woman because she's like, after I was calming down, she's like, look, man, God got you in here for a purpose. You have attempted murder. You have a chance of getting out.
Right.
She's a lot of these guys have murder, and a lot of them might not go home.
Right.
But you have an opportunity. But what caught me is when she said God has a purpose for me.
Right.
And I said, where did this come from? Like,
Yeah.
I never had a relationship with God, or I didn't pray or nothing, but I did know there was a God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was crazy because once I went back in there and I finished the board hearing, I was walking back to the yard with the cop, and then I was telling myself, I started talking to myself like, damn, dude, I got issues, I got problems. Like I never said, because my 14 years in prison, I was so emotional damaged that I was taking my anger out on other people.
Right.
Taking it out on my cellies. I was always getting mad.
Yeah.
So projecting your emotions.
Yeah.
Feeling
And I didn't know about this. And then like when I was walking back, I was like, man, I got issues. I need to change. Something's wrong with me.
Right.
I finally realized, that I had issues, and I finally admitted it.
Right.
Once you do that,
Yeah.
then you could start the change. Then you can start the process of helping yourself.
Yeah.
You have to let people help you.
Right.
I never did that. Even
Yeah.
throughout the juvenile system, the camp, I didn't let nobody help me, and there was really nobody out there to help me. They never asked me what's going on in your home.
Yeah.
That was never asked.
Yeah.
It was just like, okay, do your time, get out. And I went right
Right.
back to the same situation, right
Yeah.
back to the hood,
Right.
right back to the hood. Every time I got out, I went right back to the hood.
So
Remember
that
my
was
dad?
like your default setting.
Yes.
That
I
was
remember
your
my
way of
dad
coping.
picked me up one time
Mhm.
in juvenile hall, and I told him, hey, drop me off right here. He dropped me off right in the hood, and I went right back.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that was that lifestyle. So once I recognized that I had issues, okay, this is where I started to make the change. I started to participate in mental health programs. I started to participate in every self-help group they had.
Yeah.
I started going to church. I started reading the Bible. I started, I wanted to learn
Right.
what's going on with me. I started learning a lot of things.
Yeah.
But that's
that's
the
good.
beginning of that
Right.
part.
I got you.
All right.
That's
Thank
it.
you for that.
Thank you for that, man. Appreciate it.
And I think just hearing your story, what I hear is like trying to navigate life on your own. And then when you did figure out you had to change, you had to figure out how far you came and what you went through first
Yeah.
before you was even able to go forward. So it's like you kind of went through a stage where you had to kind of evaluate.
Right.
And then you was able to notice like, oh, I do have not just a problem like I'm crazy, but I do got some issues that I didn't even think that I had.
Right.
But if you didn't go through those 14 years of being tired, you wouldn't have been able to get to that point to evaluate it, to look back and say,
Yeah.
you know what? Like, why am I at this age just now noticing that this is a problem for me?
Right.
And then when you get in spaces that allow you to let it out, that's when you start noticing how deep it is.
Yeah.
You know, and how vulnerable you are to it. You know, so.
Right.
To even for you to see you today, like I'm really proud of you. You know, that's a lot to go through from like childhood with your mom, and then trying to navigate and trying to make change. Usually, people do have parents that are around that are helping them change and guide them, and you know, providing them that advocacy. But you didn't have that, so it's like, how were you supposed to do anything in life?
Right.
And we wouldn't say jail was the answer, because you know we all don't think jail is the answer, but for you it was a safe haven, like how for me school was a safe haven. So I felt like I can be who I was at school because I had teachers that poured into me, and in prison you had lawyers who was pouring into the people like my dad and people around you that was pouring into you. So sometimes we got to get put in uncomfortable positions for years in order to bring the best out of us, and I just think that that's something that we all can relate to. Yeah,
that's beautiful, and it's a good thing that you hear that my daughter can hear from a different perspective other than just me, because back then it was many of us who was going through similar things, and we didn't know how to get a lifestyle up, but we fed off each other's stories, right? All our stories was powerful, and so we fed off each other's stories, and that made us wanted to speak out and made us wanted to change, right? So if you take all these people that have all these terrifying stories and all this drama and violence and things like that, and then you see they up in here trying to make a change with their life, it was so powerful. It was powerful. It became a movement of positivity. It was a movement for our mental state too at that time in the prison system. But yeah, I'm happy that you're here, bro.
All right, next question. So now that you have transitioned and you're currently living a different lifestyle of what you lived before, what encourages you to keep your mental and emotional state in a hopeful place?
I could say the only thing I could say about that is God. God has blessed me in so many ways, you know, and making that change. What I needed to get peace within myself, because I experience the blessings and the power of God. That's what encouraged me every day to live and push forward and to keep on the path that I'm on right now. You know. So, I mean, there's so many things I'm doing today that I wasn't doing back then. I could even share one thing, because you know I'm a truck driver now. So like I remember driving up north and I was passing by 2 prisons that I was in, and I just remember being in prison and looking outside the window and saying, man, will I ever be free? And then to pass by in a semi truck, who would have ever thought that? I'm looking at the prison from the outside, and all I could do was thank God. Like at that moment, I was like, man, thank you. Like he not only did he give me freedom out here, but he gave me freedom within. And that's the thing when you're looking at a spiritual aspect. You know, God gives you what you need to get the healing and move forward with your life. You know, I was able to forgive my mom. I was able to forgive my dad. You know, I was able to do that.
And you was able to forgive yourself too, right?
Everything that we did, you know, we did a lot of stuff in prison. You know, the self-help group. I even, you know what? You know, some people in prison, like I said, they look at mental health as, you know, something bad. Some crazy. Man, I joined the mental health. You know, I need to help myself. I didn't care what anybody else said, but that helped me out, because you know, coming out into society and my dad was still alive, I was able to go see my dad. I was able to hug him and tell him, you know what, I love you and I forgive you. And I think that God had this all planned out, because you know he died like maybe a year and a half after I got out. But I think he let him, because he was old, he was sick. But I think God let him live a little bit longer to see me and for us to connect and do that. You know, I had brothers come to the hospital and pray over him, and you know, and it was beautiful the time that I had with him. You know, but that just shows the power of God. You know, and
And when you learn how to forgive, that's when you learn how to love.
Yeah.
You
Exactly.
can't love without understanding forgiveness first.
Exactly.
You have to go through that.
Yes.
With every relationship,
Yes.
your spouse, your parents,
Right.
friendships, if you got to go through that hardship, you got to go through there because you got to deal with those tests. Because if you don't learn how to forgive, you'll never reach the real stage of love, which you're supposed to have.
And when
So,
when you go through the death part,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I remember in my childhood when a homie got killed, I went crazy. You know, okay, I'm gonna retaliate. I did it with violence, or
Right.
when my brother was murdered, okay, I did it with violence. But then when my dad died,
Yeah.
you know, because when people when you're going through the emotional damage and the stress and all that, people turn to drugs,
Yep.
people turn to alcohol,
Yep.
and it leads to that violence.
Right.
But this time, when you got your support network going and you're doing everything positive, you learn how to deal with a death in a different way. You know what I mean? So when my dad died, it was like I called people up this time.
Okay.
Hey, brother, I need to talk to you, brother. Oh, I need prayer. Oh, okay. They'll invite me. Come to the church. Come to the program. Boom, I was there.
Well, that answered
right.
that
I was
goes
just
into the
thinking,
next
yeah,
question.
That goes into my next question.
So I already answered the next
well,
question.
Well, no, you answered it a little bit, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna take you a little bit farther.
Okay.
Now, every day life brings you a different situation, right?
Yeah.
It brings you in your emotions. It goes up and down, right?
down.
And sometimes we have to find that balance, right? And sometimes we find that balance in other people or things and stuff like that. So my next question is, what type of support system do you have or rely on?
Okay, so because of my faith in God, that's my first
Okay.
and the best one for me.
Okay.
That's for me.
Okay.
Everybody has their own thing, you know what I mean?
Okay.
But God is first. I turn to prayer, talk to God. That's me.
Mhm.
Like I said, it's a spiritual thing because the power that I see what God has done in my life,
Right.
and I know He controls everything.
Right.
So, and God has put people in my life, like He put you in my life. You know what I mean? I know I could trust you. I know that I could depend on you. So all I gotta do is call Charles. Let me go through my phone.
Yeah.
Oh, let me call Charles, man. What's up? You know, I know we could talk, we could cut, we could get serious, we could laugh.
Yeah.
But I know you're gonna help me and set me in the right direction. You're not gonna send me, oh, you know what? Come on over, homie. We'll just drink, or let's go to the bar. Nah, it ain't about that.
Yeah.
So you're controlling your emotions, and that's what it's about. Having control over your emotions rather than let your emotions control you.
Yeah.
That's the difference. As a kid, as a teenager, even as an adult, I was letting my emotions control me, and they get out of control when you do that.
So that goes right into the next question as well. You answering all the questions, Anthony. Okay.
That's right.
So our last and final question, so we can get ready to wrap things up, is: can you share some words of encouragement with the people about for anybody who's dealing with PTSD? What could you do to offer them some guidance or positive, feedback?
Man, I mean, we got the mental health in the hood now, so
Okay.
we got a lot. There's a lot of positive people out there in the world. You just gotta connect with them.
Yeah.
Like I said, I got a lot of positive people in my phone, and that's what we all need. We need positive people in our life to guide us, to help us, to talk to us. We all need somebody to talk to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because when you don't have nobody to talk to, you should start doing things on your own, and that's what you don't want to do.
Right.
And that, go ahead.
And the next thing is just put your faith in God.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
That's what I did. I put all my faith in God and let God guide me and lead me and put people in my life.
He said, period.
Period,
there is no other word. That's it. That's all, right?
And you know what? He's telling the truth, because I saw him go through that process. He did used to go to church every Sunday, and even more than that, he studied that. But I always say to people, you have to keep good people around you.
Yes.
Because once you're keeping good people around you, when you're going through things, they'll help you stand. They'll balance you. They're not going to give you information that's going to tear you down, or give you information that feeds into your anger or your emotions and things like that. So that's very important, reaching out for help and not feeling ashamed to do that, because it can save your life. It can just save a decision. It can save just a choice of making a bad choice. And a lot of times all it takes is one bad choice to set us back.
Yeah. And
For a while. And as I'm saying these things, I'm also just thinking about, how we all came to this point, and thinking about Anthony's story, and it just takes me back. Like, we worked hard to get to this point in our lives, and it takes hard work to be able to get your mind in the way that you need it to be, to work for you every day, to deal with everyday problems. People, it takes hard work, but it also takes a whole lot of people in the positive direction that's trying to do the same thing that you're trying to do.
Right.
So always understand that when you're trying to move forward, when you're coming from traumatic situations that carry with you throughout your life, because there's always something that can remind you of something that happened in your childhood or happened in a relationship, and it takes you back to a point. And if you don't have them coping skills that you can go to, or people you can turn to, you can go back into a bad mental state. So always remember to keep good people around you. I stress that. I really do a lot.
Yeah, and I would say that it is so easy to get into trouble or do the wrong thing, and it's so hard to do the right thing.
Right.
So that's just something that we want you guys to keep in mind, and using the PTSD strategies that we talked about in previous episodes and the ones that Anthony has shared today. So thank you, Anthony. We appreciate you sharing your words of wisdom. We appreciate your bravery and vulnerability and courage. I think is it Hispanic or Latino? As a Hispanic man, I think this is a good representation, because with us being African American and being able to hear your point of view, and even though we're minorities, black and brown, our perception and our experiences are always going to be different, just culturally, and we appreciate you doing that there for us. So we have some final announcements, right? And then we can get ready to wrap everything up. So this is the final episode of season 1.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
It's been a nice journey.
It's been great. So we will be having a final Zoom meetup. You want to talk about it, because you named the title and everything?
Well, it's a Zoom meetup. It's called Recap and Feedback, and it's basically going through. We want everybody to make sure you watch all the season episodes, and so when you come on this recap and feedback, we can talk about it. It'll give us opportunities to see what we can do better. We just want your honest opinion and how it helped you, anything like that. So that's something that we're looking forward to. And also we had a great, I want to give a shout out to the last Zoom meeting that we had, Dynasty.
Yeah.
That it was a wonderful meeting. We had a lot of people speaking up, very encouraging. It was positive, it was powerful. Anything you like to say about that?
Just mainly, everybody, it came at a time that was well needed.
Right.
We are going through a crisis right now with the police brutality, with the COVID-19, and I feel that since everybody is still having to follow the safety regulations and staying at home, it gave people a space and opportunity to share how they was feeling and what was on their mind, because social media platforms, all media platforms are going crazy right now, from the news to television to media. It's a conversation, so I'm glad that we're able to have that conversation. Yeah. So that is going to be Wednesday, July 8th at 7:00 p.m. In order for you to get the access code, you have to go to our Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at Mental Health in the Hood, and the access code will be on the flyer. That's the only way that you can get it. So you got to put in some work if you want to be able to go, okay? And make sure you follow when you go on the page.
Right.
And then season 2, episode 1 will be posted Sunday, August 2nd at 9 a.m. So during this month, we're going to be basically preparing season 2, scheduling referrals. So if you have anybody who is not scheduling referrals, scheduling interviews. So if you have anybody who wants to be referred to tell their story, please reach out during this time.
Yes.
We will be back. We appreciate you. Thank you for your time, and make sure you subscribe. We can't do this work without you. This show is for everyday people. This show will be for you and always for you. So please support your show.
Yes, we appreciate the love, people. Thank you.
All right, have a good one.